Hi, everyone. This is Alisa Dixon, and this is Astrology with Alisa, real talk with my Astro Besties. I am joined today with Lori and Katie and Irina and Holly, and we are going to talk to you today about something that is called chart expression. So we talk a lot about the sun, the moon, the rising sign. We hear so much of this all over the place with all of the astrologers out there talking, but you don't really hear a whole lot about chart expression. And so that's what we're going to dive into today. But before we do, I got a really cool comment on the YouTube channel from a listener who had a question about my Astro Dice. I had done a podcast episode several weeks back talking about how I roll the dice every morning. And these are my Astro Dice, if you can see them. One of them has the planets, one of them has all of the zodiac signs, and then one of them has the houses. So what happens is every morning I ask a question to the universe, and every morning I'll roll the dice without fail. Even my kids now know if there's something important, they're like, Mom, can you roll the dice? See what it says. And it started as a daily ritual practice for me to just kind of ground myself in the daily energy. The dice never lie. It always comes right up as what I need to know for that day. And that's usually what I ask is, what do I need to know from the universe for today? And I roll the dice and I interpret them. So I thought it would be really fun to show you this in action before today's episode. And for this listener, thank you for your question. I'm going to roll the dice and I'll kind of give my take on it. And if any of you guys want to jump in, I would love it. So the question of the hour is, what do we need to make sure we talk about on this episode relative to chart expression? So I'm going to roll. All right. I got the sun. I got Leo. And I got the first house. So the sun in Leo in the first house relative to chart expression. Okay, so the sun is how you shine. That is Leo. And that is what everybody first thinks about when they think about astrology. What's your sun sign? We were actually just talking about this before we started recording, is we talk about sun signs, but everybody else thinks of it as, oh, what's your sign? We talk about sun sign because we know there's a sun sign and a moon sign and a Mercury and all these things. The sun sign is how you shine. The first house is self. But there is so much more to all of us than just our sun sign. So I think that's a perfect role for this conversation because we're going to talk about how it's not just your sun sign. It's a whole lot more. So what about you guys? Is there anything else you would add to my interpretation?
Well, one thing that came through right away when you rolled it was true identity, because we're talking about the first house. This is who you are at your core. The sun is your identity. Like you said, it's where you shine. And Leo, take pride in that. So there is a taking pride in who you are and realizing really, and I think you're highlighting it, Elisa, so beautifully here with everyone, the complexity that comes into and the depth and the richness each person when we have the gift of being able to look at their charts and share that with them. So I'm excited to chat today. Lots of good things are going to come out.
Going to be awesome. Anyone else on the dice roll?
Yeah, I think it's a great setup. So you talked about, and Irina emphasized the sun. We were discussing that being the brightest light. I would say the next thing that people are most familiar with are the big three, right? What's my sun sign? What's my moon sign? What's my rising sign? And so what we're going to talk about today is the amalgamation of all of that shows up through chart expression. And since sun is the thing most people are familiar with and part of the big three, right? It's really a great setup.
Cool. All right. So thank you for your question. That is how I do dice. And if anybody has any more interest, feel free to drop some more comments. I would love to talk about the dice more anytime. All right. So chart expression, what is it? So I'm actually going to throw this over to you, Lori, because this was actually Lori's idea to talk about this particular topic. And immediately we all were like, yes, that's a good one. So Lori, what do you think about when you think about chart expression? Maybe kind of explain what it is and your thoughts, why you wanted to talk about it.
Yeah. Holly, I love your word amalgamation. I think that's such a good lead in to what chart expression is. So when we talk about chart expression, this is looking at the elements that your planets are in, and then the modality of everything in your chart. And it's counting how many signs are in fire, earth, air, water, and then how many are in cardinal, fixed, immutable. And sometimes that chart expression, actually most of the time, that chart expression ultimately ends up expressing as your sun, your moon, or your ascendant, your rising sign. But there's other occasions where somebody's chart expression is different than one of those big three. And when this happens, it's significant because that chart expression it's a driving force for that individual, but it's a little bit under the surface. It's not super obvious. And it's a really important part of the bigger picture of the individual.
That's a great, great lead in because so many times people know what their sign is, right? Thinking of their sun sign, and they're like, that doesn't really sound like me. Or you feel like there's this whole other part to you, and you're like, oh, astrology, it's bunk, whatever. But it's not. It's because maybe you're expressing a different sign. So we are going to play a game. So Holly and I each have somebody that we're thinking of that we have not shared with everybody else what the chart expression is or what the sun, moon, rising is. We'll do that after. I'll go first. I've got a family member who has a different chart expression than the big three. And I'm going to describe this person and you guys tell me, let's talk through what sign am I describing? What is this expression? And then Holly will do the same thing. It'll be really fun, I hope. Okay, so as a child, this person was into horseback riding, not so much sports, but loved the equestrian. As an adult, loves to travel and would often, even as a child, travel long distances. As a college major, she majored in anthropology with a specialty in archaeology. She went by herself to Europe to do an underwater scuba dive of an archaeological underwater site.
Wow.
I mean, wow. And she does love astrology, but I will leave it right there. So you guys, what sign are you hearing as I'm saying these things?
Sagittarius.
Yeah.
100%.
Sag.
Yep.
Through and
Yes.
through.
Yes. So this is one of my family members. She expresses Sagittarius. Never knew that until I learned about chart expression and I figured it out. And I said, oh my gosh, guess what? You've got this whole nother side to you. So this person is a Virgo sun, a Virgo moon, and a Leo rising.
Wow.
Interesting you said some of those Virgo things. I heard Virgo in some of like the horseback riding and some of those things felt very Virgo like to me. But then the traveling and all of that, I was like, this is Sag.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
And the study.
And yes.
The schooling.
The study, yeah.
Yep. Yeah. And I will tell you, I mean, there's definitely elements of everything else in there, but my gosh, like this is a complete missing link. And I actually always saw Sagittarius with this person, always. I didn't know it, but I always saw it. And then when I learned about this, it's like, wow, this all makes sense. Okay, so there's a great example. Okay, so Holly, you do yours.
Okay. So this is a family member, and they express themselves as impatient, fast. They move fast, they talk fast, they're adventurous. They love to start things, but they don't always finish. They're competitive. They want to come in first. And not surprisingly, they have quite an affinity for sharp things. So knives, sword, katanas, I don't know, homemade shanks, all kinds of things like that. So,
Oh dear.
what do you think?
Aries.
Aries.
100%.
Absolutely.
Aries.
Absolutely.
So this is his son, and his sun sign is Taurus. Don't get me wrong, he's a little bougie. He likes good food and soft sheets, but his moon is in Leo, and then his rising sign is Aquarius, but he has an Aries stellium. And in that stellium, there are 5 planets in Aries.
Wow.
Wow.
4 of them
Wow.
occupy Aries 23 degrees to 29 degrees. So pretty condensed in there. And 3 of them are personal planets. So his Mercury, how he communicates, Venus, how he loves and connects with people, Mars, his energy style. I have to imagine that's why he's been making homemade shanks since forever. I don't know. This kid lives in like
Mars and Aries, yes.
yeah, the
yes.
bougiest bubble ever. He has never had a threat of any kind. And then his Jupiter and his Uranus is also in Aries. And
Wow.
so for me, obviously, as an astrologer, I knew his chart within hours of him being born. And I looked at it and thought, okay, this is going to be a wild ride. Now I have moon in Aries, so I have some experience there, but a great example about chart expression and interacting with people in that way is I've known from the beginning that my kid was going to have Aries tendencies. And so one of the stories I like to tell when he was younger was when he started riding a tricycle, I made him wear a helmet. Which everybody was like, it's just a tricycle, Holly. Can I tell you, the kid, by the time he was 6, had gone through 3 helmets because he had gone head first into so just total Aries, right? Aries are renowned for having damage to their heads or being in accidents where their heads are involved, over the handlebars of everything he's ever ridden in his life, right? From a trike to an electric scooter, over the handlebars he's gone at some point. He loves sports, but he doesn't, frankly, quite enjoy team sports. He's very competitive, and if other people can't hang or aren't getting it, he gets very frustrated. And so in the last year, I've been thinking about, okay, what's a sport I can enroll him in? But he doesn't really have a lot of staying power either, right? So he's not a runner. He's tried all these things. So he started fencing. And all I
That's
can tell you is
awesome.
it is fast moving with a sword.
That's perfect.
That's
And
perfect
he
for Aries.
loves it. He absolutely loves it. So
That's
yes,
awesome.
he has 3 fixed signs for his big 3, so he's stubborn through and through, but he's very
Wow.
Aries-esque. Yeah.
That's so funny. You know what's funny? I never thought about this. I have an Aries stellium. I have my Sun, my Venus, and my Mars all in Aries. Actually, ironically, I'm just making this connection in the 3rd house. And as a child, I was not wearing a helmet riding a bike, and I fell off my bike, and I was wearing glasses at the time, and my glasses cut into my eyebrow, and I got stitches in my eyebrow. So head injury to an
Yeah.
Aries when all of my Aries stellium is in the 3rd house, short distances on a bicycle.
So is his. All of his are in the 3rd as well.
So there you go.
Wow.
Yeah,
Wow.
Good job on the helmet.
Can't make
I've
it
never
up.
not worn a helmet since, I will tell you that. That's
And
so funny.
fencing. What an incredible application of astrology to help your son
Yeah.
and ultimately you too. I mean, that's such a great application, and it's one way that we can help our clients.
Yes.
How do you help
Yeah.
your children with the tendencies that they have?
Yeah.
Yeah. So when he
Fantastic.
refused to nap, it was not a surprise. Too busy. Things to do.
Yeah.
You know, it's funny because, and even with the team sport, so my daughter, Lily, who's the ninja, right? She's very athletic. She could play any team sport she wanted, but she's kind of like your son. She got frustrated when other people weren't doing what they were supposed to do, and she was like ready to do what she needed to do. So she's on a team, but it's an individual sport,
Right.
and she has her Venus and Aries, not surprisingly. Isn't that funny?
Mhm.
Is one of the things that I love about astrology, Lori, kind of to echo what you were just saying. I feel like it offers us a lot of grace and compassion. I don't know about you guys, but growing up, you'd always hear like, oh, you need to learn how to be a team player. Let's play a team sport. Like, what's wrong with you? Why can't you do this? Why aren't you outgoing? Just be brave enough. Like, stop procrastinating. And whatever the labels were, that inner critic that starts to play, when people start to learn about their charts, especially when you have children, all of a sudden you engage with them on a whole new level and you realize,
Yeah.
wow, this beautiful little soul didn't come in this lifetime to be a team player. They came in
Right.
start things and to lead. And we need
Yeah.
someone to do that. We need the leaders. We need the team players. We need it all. And, I love that imagery of like a tapestry. We could have a tapestry of all one color and it might be beautiful, but when we interweave all these other colors of like the leaders and the team players and the creatives and the dreamers and the doers, it becomes so rich and so
Yes.
deep, which is one of the fun times about getting together with all of you, because each of us has these different backgrounds and we bring these different perspectives. But it's really cool. I get excited because I feel like for too long, people have been kind of forced into a
Mhm.
mold of society.
Yeah.
Astrology helps us break free of that mold. Hence the connection with Uranus, which you'll have to talk about one day, Alisa.
Yes,
Yeah.
we
Well,
will.
And think about, to that point, Irina, how we can guide people. So for him, when he has to do group projects at school, he's going to shine as an initiator. He's going to shine as a leader, but he needs to pick people who follow through. He needs to pick people who track the details, right?
Mhm.
Because that's not going to be his natural inclination. And to your point around like helping our clients and helping them with some of their family members, even, it's really about what are your strengths and how do you lean into those? And then how do you accept the areas where surrounding yourself with other people who have different strengths are only going to make the whole effort better.
Mhm.
Beautifully said.
It's so true. And it's funny because I was just even thinking about the difference between my two kiddos. And here, Lily, I just described that she really excels as an individual person on her team or as an individual sport. Will, on the other hand, he has a stellium in Capricorn in the 11th house. So
Mm.
he
Wow.
absolutely belongs on a team. He's got like
Mhm.
4 or 5 planets in the 11th house, all in Capricorn. So that also means he's going to be a leader on his
Leading
team.
them.
And sure enough, what position does he play? He's the goalkeeper of his soccer team. He is the person that's kind of a standout. And you always notice the goalkeeper, whether they save a goal or they lose or they miss the goal, or,
Right. The buck stops with them, right?
Yeah.
Yes, 100%. So it's just kind of funny, when you look at, again, not only what is the stellium, where is it, what sign is it in, what house is it in, when we can see that, that helps us really help guide our kids or our clients or whoever down the right path for them, working with their energy. It's wild. I didn't mean for this to turn into sports and kids and stuff, but sometimes you just can't help it.
Yeah.
I think it's a really good conversation about stelliums as well, including
Mhm.
that into what can really make a chart.
Mhm.
So stellium, we've said this word like 5 times. A stellium is a group of planets that are all in one sign. I think the official definition is there has to be 4, but I go by 3. I have 2 stelliums in my chart, 3 each. I have 3 in Aries, and then I have 3 the opposite way in Libra. And I will tell you, so my Aries stellium, as an example, is my Sun, my Venus, and my Mars. And that's in the 3rd house. The other side of the chart, it's in the 9th house, and that's my Saturn, my Jupiter, and my Pluto, all right there at my midheaven. So all of that is Libra, and so that is all ruled by Venus, right? Libra is Venus ruled. Aries is Mars ruled. So whereas inside I've got this drive to go and compete and win and do all the Aries things that Holly just described, maybe not the knives, I'm not so into knives. But then I've got the Libra of how I go out into the world and how I'm seen. And I would wager to guess you guys probably don't see me as this crazy warrior, Aryan, fighting all the time person. I'm a lot more diplomatic. I care a lot more about what other people want, need, especially in my day-to-day, going out in the world with work or with friends or family. I've actually been told by an astrologer at one time, you really are not the typical Aries woman. And I'm like, really? And she's like, yeah, with all that Libra, she goes, you travel the world, but you want to do it with somebody. And that's true. I do want to travel the world, but I don't want to do it all by myself. I want to be with somebody doing that. And it never occurred to me until she said that, but that's not a typical Aries trait. Aries is all about go it alone. And there are a lot of elements to me that I do like to go it alone. I like to work by myself. Working from home is the best thing that ever happened. I mean, that's the one great thing about COVID is that became normal. And I could say, oh no, nope, now I'm home. I work from home full time because I do much better by myself in a lot of situations. But I do have that heavy Libra influence, which again, my chart expression is still Aries. I do express the cardinal fire, and that is Aries. But the stellium is a really big deal. And anytime people have stelliums in their chart, that really does make a big difference. All right. So do we have any more people that we want to play this little game with? Does anybody have anybody else they want to describe? Or do we want to veer away from the game and just talk through a few other examples?
I have somebody that I can share a bit about. This is a friend of mine, and she comes across as very, anything that she wants to learn, she goes very deep into. And it's usually around esoteric, spiritual type subjects. And man, if you piss her off, she's a firecracker. She is going to go right in for the dig. She's going to find the thing to set you off and go after it. Any guess?
Okay, that sounds like Scorpio to me.
100%.
Scorpio.
Scorpio. Interestingly, Sun Libra, Moon Virgo, and Pisces rising.
Wow.
Yes.
Okay, say that one more time. What are they? Sun Libra.
Sun Libra, Moon Virgo, and Pisces rising. But they have a Scorpio stellium in the 8th house.
Ah,
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
There it is.
And it's funny because the first time we sat down and looked at her chart together, I pointed out the chart expression, the Scorpio, and she went, oh my gosh, this makes so much sense. She's like, I have been told before that people thought I was a Scorpio. And I'm like, no, I'm a Libra sun. But she has so much Scorpio energy inside of her. And it's definitely apparent. Definitely
Wow.
apparent.
Wow.
That's incredible.
Such
ahead,
a
Holly.
contrast to those 3 being what I would refer to as docile signs.
Mhm.
right?
Yes.
Not to say they're not strong, but they're certainly not signs that
Intense.
or right that are that
Exactly.
intense. Yeah.
Exactly. Which is why, when she's filled with passion about a topic, it's always a bit of a surprise, because it comes out as just very intense.
And I bet it'll catch you off guard when you see it
Mhm.
because you're used to this pleasant Libra sun, the
Mhm.
quiet Virgo moon, right? Is
Mhm.
that what you said?
Totally.
And then the Pisces is like a very dreamy,
Yeah.
quiet rising sign. Like, yeah, Scorpio would come out of nowhere. It's funny. My all of a sudden my room here went dark as we're talking about Scorpio. I need to like turn on a light for a second. Like, weird.
It's that Scorpio darkness.
I know. I'm like, whoa, I need a little light in here.
I think it's interesting that Scorpio is the scorpion. It has the stinger. And while you were describing her, you were literally
Yeah.
using that stinger.
Well, my son's a Scorpio, so I know Scorpio very well.
Wow. That's wild. That's a cool story. All right. What about you, Irina? I think you've got somebody too, don't you?
Yeah. So, okay, I'm going to jump into the game. So this person's chart expresses as very curious, social butterfly, very outgoing, asks a lot of questions, like big man on campus. Everybody knows the person. And yeah, I'll leave it at that.
Talking Gemini.
That sounds, yep. That's what I was going to say. Gemini.
Gemini. So it's interesting because that outgoing energy, they're so magnanimous and they're involved in sales and everything, but they have a Virgo sun, Pisces moon, and Pisces rising. So if you
Wow.
just looked at that, you'd think they'd be very quiet, introverted, maybe a little shy, reserved. And yes, they need their time away, especially, thinking about like we do our moon when we feel stressed and overwhelmed. So they kind of hide away with their music or their video games at different points. The recharging is important like that. But otherwise, they have a full social calendar. They're out adventuring all the time. They're like the dad of the group, quote unquote, younger generation. And so nobody's married yet, no kids, but they're the one who this is where the Virgo comes in, organizes everything, gets the party going, but is outgoing enough to say, hey, let's go on an adventure. I'll plan it. You show up and we'll go. It always fascinates me because, again, you've got that quiet Pisces, quiet Virgo, and at a party, you'd never know it. They're the one making rounds through the room, conversing.
Wow. Isn't that wild? And what a disservice we would do to a friend, a family member, a client, if we just missed that, if we ignored that. That's the thing that's so interesting is that there is this whole other hidden side to somebody, hidden, quote unquote, per the chart, right? But it's very, very real and it's not hidden. It's a very big part of the energetic signature. It's really amazing. This is another reason why astrology is not a one size fits all,
Right.
sun sign thing. It is so much more. There's so many different factors that go into somebody's energetic signature. And that's why it's so typically validating for somebody when they have a chart reading for the very first time, when so many other pieces of their lives suddenly start clicking and falling into place that, for me, it was when I went to my first chart reading and the astrologer talked about my moon sign and she described me to a T. And I was like, how does she know this? She doesn't know anything about me. But then again, there's the moon sign, right? But the whole chart expression, it's such a cool topic. It's, I think, underused and really, really important. Any other thoughts on that? Okay, so should we move on to Katie?
Yeah.
So Katie has a different chart expression. So how do we want to do this with Katie? Do we want to just dive into it? What do we want to, I mean, we all know your chart, Katie. So
I was going to say, I'm so excited. Holly had something, and I feel like Holly should kick it off with the mystery. I have maybe a follow-up depending on what Holly says, but kind of to describe how we have encountered Katie and what we would see within her. Kind of like how you said that family member, like I always knew they were a Sagittarian or whatever.
Yeah.
So
I love that. And knowing us and the way we are in the last few years that we spent together all this time, I have a feeling that Holly's going to just crack the can and it's just going to tip right over. We're going to just get going. So I love it.
So you're right. Obviously, we've known each other and interacted now for a couple of years, but there was this moment, Katie, when you shared with me your website. And we were talking about branding and the expression, right, of your brand and your product, etc. And I looked at your website and it was screaming Sagittarius. And of course, I know you're not a Sagittarius, but I was like, wow, this is a very Sagittarian website. And so for anybody who, Alisa, I know you put all of our websites in the show notes, right? So if you go out and look at Katie's, you'll see what I mean, right? It's very green, it's nature oriented. Even the name of it has evergreen in it, right? So I think, and I did not know prior to today, that was your chart expression.
I think it was year one that we went over chart expression. We probably talked about this literally 3 years
Yeah.
ago.
Yeah.
I forgot until Katie said that as well. And I'm like, oh gosh, that's right. But even look, she's literally sitting in the middle of the forest every time we see her. And Sagittarius is a very outdoorsy
Yes.
sign.
Yeah.
Yes.
So-
Also, not just like a stock photo. This is a photo of one of my favorite places in Red River Gorge in Kentucky. So this is my home away from home. I work from here all the time. This is my background on all my calls I do.
Wow.
I'm always out in the nature, and even if I'm at home.
I love that. And this, of course, did already spark something that I'm thinking of. But Irina, you go first because you had something also on Katie.
I was going to say, I love that. And when we went to your home as well, Katie, you had such incredible, beautiful plants all over. And the other thing, too, that I love about you and that I really feel expresses as that Sagittarian energy is that the higher education, like when you pursue something that your heart is so passionate about, you learn it. And here's where some of that Scorpio energy comes in at a very deep level. But then you go out and you teach it. And that Sagittarian teaching, like you are a teacher. Everything that you are learning, you are digesting, assimilating, figuring out, discerning, and then bringing it to others in a very curated, beautiful manner. And I feel like that also is such a beautiful expression of the Sagittarius energy in you.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I do love teaching, and I do have that Scorpio. I'm a Scorpio sun, a Taurus rising, and a Libra moon. And my chart does express Sagittarius. I have 4 planets in Sagittarius. I have Mars, Venus, Jupiter, and Pluto all in Sagittarius. And it's all pretty much in the 8th house. Pluto sits right outside the 8th house in the 7th, but it's all in the 8th. And I do occult studies really for a living. I teach that for a living and bringing that astrology in now as well. And 100%. And thank you so much for your kind words about it. And it's something that I just love to do, to take that to the other people in the world, share the knowledge I've gained, and go deep while I learn, but also bring that deep knowledge to others.
Yeah, and I had forgotten about the teaching part, but that makes perfect sense, especially now I'm actually looking at your chart as we're speaking, and you have Jupiter in Sagittarius, and that is in its rulership. So that I think also brings a little bit more strength to the Sagittarius, not officially as far as the rules of chart expression go, but it is right there bringing you strength in your Jupiter in Sagittarius. And the other thing that I thought of as far as you with expressing Sagittarius is that you grew up on the East Coast and you moved a long distance to the Midwest. And I also did that, which is why I always noticed that about you. And traveling long distances is a Sagittarius trait. So there's another piece that you made a really big move, like a permanent move, which of course nothing is ever permanent. We can always undo anything we want ever. It's funny. I feel like I'm fresh off of a conversation with my children over the weekend about decisions are important, but it's okay. You can change them later. But to make a big move across the country, I mean, having done that, it is a big deal. And a long distance travel move like that's Sagittarius.
Yeah, I did that moving from the East Coast to the Midwest. And then I also now currently don't live close to my 4 family either. I have to travel that far, but a longer distance to go see them as well. And so I'm kind of the lone child in my family out here. My husband's family has become my close family in the area. But yeah, I also did it again, moving away from my parents.
Yeah, it's just wild. It's wild when all of this shows up and you can kind of find different elements that you can pick out. And actually, I just said elements. I didn't mean it in the sense of the elements and modalities, but maybe this is a really good time as we round out our conversation, just talk a little bit about, okay, what is chart expression? What are the rules of it? And we touched on it a little bit at the beginning, but just to kind of round out. So the elements are earth, air, fire, water, not necessarily in that order. I was just naming them. And fire is all about energy. Air is that's the social and it's the ideas and the communication. Water is that receptivity, the sensitivity, the intuition. Earth, that's the practical, the grounded. That's what I think of when I think of the elements. And then the modalities, that is the 3 of those are cardinal, fixed, and mutable. Cardinal signs start things. Fixed signs maintain things. and the mutable signs prepare for change. They're actually aligned with the seasons. So if you think about it, for example, Aries is the start of spring, that's cardinal. The next sign is Taurus. Taurus maintains the spring. Then the next sign is Gemini, which is June, when you're preparing to get into summer. And then Cancer is cardinal again, starting summer, and so on around the whole zodiac. Every one of the elements, each one of them has a cardinal, fixed, and mutable sign. So when we're figuring out Katie's, for example, expressing Sagittarius, that means in her chart, she has mostly mutable planets and she has mostly fire. And so you figure out what sign is mutable fire, and that's Sagittarius. So that's just to round out a little description if anybody's wondering what's all this they're talking about, what are the rules. So I don't know if anybody else has anything to add around that.
Yeah, I think I would add that as you're learning astrology, either for yourself after a consultation or just because you're interested in it, you'll find that a chart can be chocked full of things, right? There are planets, there are points, there are asteroids, and there's all these things. So when you're looking at chart expression, focus on the planets. As we said earlier, many people will have a chart expression that aligns to one of their big three, their sun, their moon, or their rising. And there will be situations where there is no dominant necessarily element or modality because they'll be broken apart. I will say, in the case of myself, someone asked me this. So when you look at my chart, even our teacher asked, do you consider your expression Aries or Leo? Because I have a lot of fire in my chart and I have a good amount of fixed and cardinal. And so what I said was, I see it more as Leo expression. And a big part of that is because of my rising sign being Leo, right? So that sort of tips the scales. And so there are things, when you're looking for things to tip the scales, the big three become important. But there's a lot that you can put on a chart. So keep it simple, right? Look at the planets and look at their distribution.
That's a really good point, because we did kind of go down a little bit of a rabbit hole today talking about this other hidden element of astrology that's different from the big three that we think about. But sometimes don't look for something that's not there, right? Sometimes you really are going to express one of your big three, but sometimes you won't, and just be open to it. And that's really the big message of astrology, period. For me, is ever since I've started learning and studying astrology, it's all about just be open to the what if and the what else, because there is a lot there, a lot of what else. All right. Well, any closing thoughts around chart expression? This was such a cool topic. No? All right. I think we covered it. Well, thank you guys so much. This was so much fun. We will have more for you next week as usual. If there's anything you heard that you didn't understand or you want a little more information about, just drop it in the comments. I actually also just opened up the community on the YouTube channel. I didn't even know that existed because, like I said, I'm a novice of YouTube. But even if it's not a specific video you want to comment on and you just want to go over to the community, I would love to hear from you. We all would. And we all are available for chart readings. If there's any one of us you resonate with more than another, that's great. Seek us out and we will be available. So thank you so much for watching, for listening, and we'll see you next time. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.